Michael sat at the dining table staring at the RSVP card for the college reunion Lisa had excitedly mentioned for weeks. The event was all she had talked about, reminiscing about old friends, shared memories, and the chance to reconnect with the people who had shaped her younger years. At first, Michael was happy for her. He knew how much Lisa cherished those days and encouraged her to attend, even offering to go with her. But she had waved off the suggestion with a laugh, saying, "It's just a small gathering. You wouldn't enjoy all the boring nostalgia." He hadn't thought much of it, until now. Lisa had been acting strange ever since she came back from the reunion. She was more distracted, her phone constantly glued to her hand. Her once affectionate demeanor had turned cold, replaced by a vague sense of unease that lingered in the air. Michael's suspicions began to grow the night he walked into their bedroom to find Lisa hastily putting her phone face down on the nightstand. "Who were you texting?" he asked casually, keeping his voice light. "Just an old friend from the reunion," she replied quickly, a little too quickly. Her tone was forced, and she avoided his eyes as she climbed into bed. Michael didn't press further, but a gnawing feeling took root in his chest. Something wasn't right. Lisa's behavior wasn't just different, it was evasive. A week later, Michael's gut instinct was validated. Lisa had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she stepped out to run errands. As Michael passed by, a notification popped up on the screen, a message from someone named Ryan. The preview of the message was innocuous enough. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again soon." Michael's heart stopped. Ryan. The name didn't mean anything to him at first, but as he thought back to Lisa's stories about her college days, it clicked. Ryan had been her college boyfriend, the one she had always described as a first love, but long in the past. But clearly, Ryan wasn't in the past anymore. Michael clicked on the message thread, his hands trembling, but steady enough to take screenshots of what he found. The messages painted a clear picture of an affair that had reignited during the reunion. Ryan wasn't just an old friend, he was Lisa's lover. The texts were filled with flirtation, intimate details, and plans for secret meetups. Michael closed the laptop and sat back, his mind racing. Rage bubbled under the surface, but he forced himself to stay calm. Storming into a confrontation now would only give Lisa the upper hand. He needed proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. And then, he would make sure she regretted every choice she had made. The betrayal stung deeply, but Michael wasn't a man to crumble under pain. As he sat in the quiet kitchen, he made a promise to himself. This wasn't going to end with him as the victim. If Lisa thought she could play with his trust and get away with it, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. The days that followed were tense, but Michael played his role perfectly. He acted as though nothing was wrong, greeting Lisa with the same warmth and attentiveness as always. If anything, he leaned into the facade, becoming more attentive than usual. He kissed her forehead when she returned from work, complimented her cooking, and even suggested they plan a weekend getaway together. Lisa, oblivious to his suspicions, seemed to buy into his behavior. She responded with distracted smiles, occasionally glancing at her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. Michael's resolve only hardened as he watched her lie to his face without hesitation. In the meantime, Michael was busy laying the groundwork for his plan. He started by hiring a private investigator, a seasoned professional who had handled similar cases of marital infidelity. The investigator didn't waste time, installing a GPS tracker in Lisa's car and following her discreetly on her errands. It didn't take long for the evidence to pile up. Photos of Lisa meeting Ryan at a cafe, sitting too close for comfort. Surveillance footage of the two of them entering a hotel together, their hands intertwined. The investigator even managed to record snippets of their conversations, confirming the physical and emotional nature of their relationship. Michael reviewed the evidence in the privacy of his home office, his jaw clenched and his chest heavy. Each photo, each recording, felt like another knife twisting in his back. But he didn't let the pain overwhelm him. Instead, he channeled it into a calculated focus, refining his plan with each new piece of evidence. One evening, Lisa came home late, her excuse as flimsy as ever. "Work ran late," she said, tossing her bag onto the couch. Michael smiled at her, masking the anger simmering beneath the surface. "Must have been a busy day," he replied, his tone even. She nodded, avoiding his gaze. "Yeah, you know how it is." Michael knew exactly how it was. He had already seen the GPS tracker log that placed her at the same hotel where Ryan had been spotted multiple times. That night, as Lisa slept soundly beside him, Michael stared at the ceiling, his mind racing. The evidence was undeniable, the betrayal unmistakable. But this wasn't the time for confrontation. Not yet. He needed the perfect moment, a setting that would leave no room for denial, no escape from the truth. A week later, Michael got his opportunity. Lisa announced that Ryan was organizing a small college reunion follow-up at his house, inviting a few close friends from their alma mater. "You don't mind if I go, right?" she asked, her tone casual, but her eyes betraying a hint of nervousness. Michael smiled warmly, masking the icy determination brewing within him. "Of course not," he said. "Have fun." Inside, he was already planning how to turn the tables. Lisa thought she was in control, that her affair with Ryan was still a secret. But Michael was about to make sure her lies came crashing down in the most spectacular way possible. The night of the college reunion follow-up arrived, and Lisa left the house dressed to impress. Her fitted black dress and carefully styled hair screamed of someone trying to make an impression. She gave Michael a quick kiss on the cheek before heading out, her usual confident smile firmly in place. "Don't wait up," she said breezily as she grabbed her purse. Michael watched her leave, the door closing behind her with a finality that sent a shiver of satisfaction down his spine. Little did Lisa know, she wasn't the only one attending Ryan's gathering tonight. An hour later, Michael arrived at Ryan's upscale suburban home. He parked a few blocks away, ensuring his car wouldn't be noticed, and made his way toward the house. The sounds of laughter and music floated through the air as he approached. The house was warmly lit, the windows revealing clusters of people chatting and enjoying themselves. Michael had spent days preparing for this moment. In his pocket, he carried a USB drive containing every piece of evidence he had collected: photos, videos, text messages, even the audio recordings. He had also made arrangements with a trusted tech-savvy friend who had helped him program the USB to autoplay a slideshow when inserted into any device. As he reached the front door, he took a deep breath, steadying himself. This wasn't just about exposing Lisa's betrayal. It was about reclaiming his dignity and ensuring she faced the consequences of her actions. Michael slipped inside the house unnoticed, blending into the crowd. The living room was packed with people, most of whom he recognized from photos Lisa had shown him over the years. But his focus wasn't on them, it was on Lisa and Ryan, who were standing close together near the kitchen, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. He didn't approach them right away. Instead, he made his way to the dining room, where a large TV screen was mounted on the wall. It was connected to a laptop, which seemed to be running a slideshow of nostalgic college photos for the guests. Perfect. Michael inserted the USB drive into the laptop and quickly set it to play. Within seconds, the screen switched from college photos to the damning evidence he had compiled. Lisa and Ryan holding hands at the cafe, entering the hotel, and laughing intimately during their secret meetings. Each photo was time-stamped and labeled, leaving no room for ambiguity. The room fell silent as the slideshow began to play. Guests stopped mid-conversation, their attention drawn to the screen. Michael didn't say a word, letting the evidence speak for itself. Lisa was the first to notice. She froze, her glass of wine trembling in her hand as she stared at the screen in horror. Ryan's expression quickly shifted from confusion to panic, his face turning pale as whispers began to spread through the crowd. What is this?" Lisa stammered, her voice barely audible. Michael stepped forward, his calm presence commanding the room. "This," he said, his voice steady, "is the truth. The truth about what you've been doing behind my back. Lisa's face crumpled, tears welling up in her eyes. Michael, please, I can't explain. Save it, he interrupted coldly. You've done enough lying. Tonight isn't about your excuses, it's about accountability. The guests murmured amongst themselves, their expressions a mix of shock and disgust. Ryan tried to slip away unnoticed, but Michael wasn't about to let him off the hook. And Ryan, Michael said, his voice sharp, don't think you're walking away from this unscathed. You knew exactly what you were doing. And now, everyone here knows too. The room was thick with tension, the weight of the betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Michael stood tall, unflinching as he faced Lisa and Ryan. This was just the beginning of their reckoning, and he wasn't done yet. Lisa's world began to crumble in real time. As the slideshow continued to play, exposing every detail of her affair, she stood frozen in the middle of the room, her once practiced confidence now shattered. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd, with several guests pulling out their phones to record the scandal unfolding before their eyes. Michael remained calm, his eyes fixed on Lisa and Ryan. The man who had arrogantly laughed and flirted with his wife just moments ago now looked like a cornered animal, shifting uncomfortably as the weight of the room's judgment bore down on him. Michael, please, Lisa finally choked out, her voice trembling. This isn't what it looks like. Michael let out a short, humorless laugh. It's exactly what it looks like, Lisa. Or would you like me to play the audio recordings next? You know, the ones where you two planned your little hotel rendezvous? Lisa's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to form words. Ryan, clearly out of his depth, tried to speak up. Look, man, I think we should talk about this privately. Michael cut him off with a glare. Privately? Oh no, Ryan. You didn't think about privacy when you were sneaking around with my wife. Now everyone gets to see what kind of man you are. The room grew even quieter as Michael turned to address the guests. I want you all to know, he said, his voice steady, that I didn't do this to create a spectacle. I did this because I refuse to let lies and betrayal define my life. Lisa and Ryan thought they could deceive me, thought they could walk all over my trust. But tonight, they get to face the truth. The guests nodded silently, their expressions a mix of sympathy for Michael and disgust toward Lisa and Ryan. Lisa broke into tears, dropping her wine glass, which shattered on the floor. Michael, I'm sorry, she sobbed. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for this to happen. Michael's gaze hardened. A mistake is one bad decision. What you did, Lisa, was a series of choices. You chose to betray me, to lie to me, and to risk everything we built together. For what? A cheap thrill with your college ex? The humiliation was unbearable for Lisa. She turned to the crowd, her voice trembling. Please, everyone, this is a misunderstanding. It's not what you think. But no one stepped forward to comfort her. The room's silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of Michael calmly retrieving his USB drive from the laptop. I think we're done here, Michael said, his voice cold. You've lost any right to explain yourself, Lisa. And as for you, Ryan, I hope it was worth it, because you've just earned yourself a reputation you'll never escape. Ryan muttered something under his breath and made a hasty exit, pushing past the stunned guests. Lisa, left alone in the center of the room, looked around desperately, but no one offered her support. Michael walked toward the door, pausing only briefly to glance back at Lisa. Pack your things, he said. When I get home, I expect you to be gone. Don't make this harder than it already is. With that, he left the house, his head held high. Lisa collapsed onto the couch, her sobs echoing in the now uncomfortably quiet room. The crowd slowly began to disperse, leaving her to face the reality of what she had done. When Michael returned home that night, the house was dark and quiet. Lisa's car was still in the driveway, but he didn't expect her to leave immediately. He knew she'd be sitting inside, trying to figure out what to do next. Michael walked inside and found her sitting at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands. The confident, composed woman he had married was gone, replaced by someone broken and desperate. But he felt no pity. This was the result of her choices, and she would have to live with them. "I thought I told you to pack your things," he said, his tone cold and detached. Lisa looked up, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Michael, please. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you and I'll do anything to fix this." Michael stood across the table from her, his gaze unyielding. "You love me?" he said with a bitter laugh. "You have a strange way of showing it, Lisa. Was it love when you lied to my face? Was it love when you snuck off to be with him?" She shook her head, fresh tears streaming down her face. "I don't know what I was thinking. It just happened. But I swear it didn't mean anything. You mean everything to me." Michael's expression darkened. "It didn't mean anything? You risked everything we had for something that didn't mean anything? That's supposed to make it better?" Lisa's pleas fell on deaf ears. Michael's resolve was unshakable. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, and he wasn't about to let her crocodile tears manipulate him. "I want you out by tomorrow," he said firmly. "I've already contacted a lawyer, and the divorce papers will be filed by the end of the week." Lisa froze, her sobs quieting as she realized the gravity of his words. "Divorce?" she whispered. "Michael, no. Please. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." But Michael shook his head. "There's nothing left to fix, Lisa. You destroyed us the moment you decided he was worth more than your vows." The next morning, Michael left for work without saying another word to Lisa. By the time he returned home, she was gone. Her clothes, her belongings, even the framed photos of their wedding. Everything had been packed and taken away. The house felt emptier, but Michael didn't mind. It was a new beginning, and he welcomed the silence. Michael spent the evening going through the house, removing any remaining traces of Lisa. He threw out the anniversary gifts, deleted the photos from his phone, and even rearranged the furniture to make the space feel entirely his. As he stood in the middle of the living room, looking at the fresh, uncluttered space, he felt a sense of relief. Lisa's betrayal had hurt deeply, but it hadn't broken him. He was stronger than that. Michael's journey wasn't over, but he had taken the first steps toward rebuilding his life. Lisa had thought she could manipulate him, thought she could escape the consequences of her actions. But Michael had shown her otherwise. Michael's life gradually began to take on a new rhythm. With Lisa gone, the house felt like a sanctuary instead of a battleground. He threw himself into his work, earning the respect of his colleagues and even receiving a promotion. But his transformation wasn't just professional. Michael also focused on his health, joining a gym and taking up hiking on weekends. The betrayal had left scars, but Michael wasn't one to wallow in self-pity. Instead, he used the pain as fuel, pushing himself to become stronger, more confident, and more focused than ever before. Meanwhile, Lisa's world continued to spiral. The fallout from the reunion had spread quickly through their social circle. Friends she had once charmed now avoided her calls, their loyalty firmly with Michael. Even her family, who had always supported her, expressed their disappointment. Lisa tried to reconnect with Ryan, hoping to find solace in the man she had risked everything for. But Ryan, unwilling to face the backlash from their exposed affair, had vanished. He didn't respond to her messages or calls, leaving Lisa to face the consequences alone. Her once comfortable lifestyle was now a distant memory. With no support system and limited resources, Lisa moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of town. She struggled to find work, her reputation tarnished by the scandal. The life she'd taken for granted was gone, replaced by a harsh reality she couldn't escape. One afternoon, while running errands, Lisa spotted Michael at a cafe. He was seated by the window, laughing with a group of friends. He looked relaxed, happy, like a man who had left his pain behind. Lisa hesitated, her heart aching as she watched him. For a moment, she considered approaching him, begging for forgiveness. But the sight of his easy smile and confident demeanor stopped her. She realized she no longer had a place in his life. Michael, unaware of Lisa's presence, continued his conversation with his friends. He didn't need her apology or her explanation. He had moved on, and his life was better for it. That evening, Michael returned home to a peaceful house. As he sat on the porch, watching the sunset, he felt a sense of contentment he hadn't experienced in years. He had reclaimed his life, and he wasn't looking back. Months passed, and Michael's transformation was complete. The life he had once shared with Lisa now felt like a distant memory. He had built something new, something better, one brick at a time. One evening, while organizing his home office, Michael came across an old photo album from his marriage. He paused for a moment, flipping through the pages. Each image told a story, but none of them felt relevant anymore. These were memories from a life that no longer defined him. Instead of keeping the album, Michael decided it was time to let go. That night, he lit a small fire in his backyard. One by one, he tossed the photos into the flames, watching as the past burned away. It wasn't an act of anger. It was a symbolic gesture of closure. Lisa, on the other hand, was trapped in her regrets. She spent her days reflecting on the choices she had made, replaying the moments when she could have done things differently. The vibrant, confident woman she once was had faded, replaced by someone hollow and lonely. In a moment of desperation, Lisa wrote Michael a letter. It was raw, heartfelt, and filled with apologies. She poured out her regret, asking for forgiveness, not to rekindle their relationship, but to ease her own guilt. When Michael received the letter, he read it carefully. Her words were genuine, but they no longer held power over him. He didn't feel anger, nor did he feel pity. Instead, he folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, choosing not to respond. Forgiveness wasn't something he could offer. It was something she would have to find within herself. Michael's life, however, was flourishing. He had reconnected with old friends, taken up new hobbies, and even started dating again. He met Claire, a kind and compassionate woman who shared his love of the outdoors. Unlike Lisa, Claire was honest and genuine, with no pretense or hidden agenda. Their relationship blossomed naturally, bringing Michael a sense of joy and stability he hadn't known in years. One evening, as they walked along the beach, Claire asked, "Do you ever think about her?" Michael paused, looking out at the waves. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But not in the way you'd think. It's not anger or sadness anymore. It's just a reminder of how far I've come." Claire smiled, intertwining her fingers with his. "You've come a long way," she said softly. "And I'm glad I get to share this part of the journey with you." Michael smiled back, his heart full. "So am I." The story didn't end with revenge. It ended with redemption. Michael had turned the pain of betrayal into a source of strength, using it to rebuild his life and find happiness on his own terms. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Michael knew one thing for certain. His past no longer defined him. His future was his own, and it was brighter than ever.